to start cleaning up the blood to make sure no one realizes this was a horrific crime scene. And the amount of chemicals that they were using to clean his blood wakes him up. And then they're like, oh, damn, this guy's alive still.
Under the docks, yeah, under the docks. Buried deep, but we're breaking the locks. Footage got clipped, they erase all the shots. We stay connected dots. Under the docks, under the docks, yeah, under the docks. Under the docks.
Main Street Mondays. Brr, 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 brr. You know what it is. Under the Docks, Main Street Mondays, where we cover the newest, the viral, the thing everybody's talking about, the documentaries that are roaming around TikTok, and we got our little cyber sleuths solving the case. You got Paranoid American, Sean, Chris. What's up?
Hey, today it's going to be like prisoners solving the case, which is kind of interesting.
So today we got a brand new, came out on October 10th, 2025, The Alabama Solution, an HBO documentary directed by Andrew Horowitz.
There you go. Good
There
enough.
we go. And Charlotte Kaufman. And this basically is a documentary that covers Alabama prison system, but from the perspective of the inmates inside, like raw footage with cell phones and actually seeing how it is. And they actually do a good job of spreading it out and talking to the attorney general, kind of shedding light on the government. It's a mainstream conspiracy, shall we say.
I got to ask, man, you been to prison?
I've been to county jail.
Okay. All right. So it's interesting watching this because there's people that have had to actually deal with institutions, even if you're just in the military. Another good example, because even while I'm watching this, there's like correlations where, man, from the outside looking in, maybe it might be mind blowing to hear some of this for the first time when you're like 50.
Plotting the course, get the key claims and what they actually thrown out there. There is actually claims in this, so it is interesting that they've staked some claims and try to answer them. So it follows three characters: Melvin Ray, Robert Earl Council, and Sandy Ray. Sandy Ray and Stephen Davis, who is the son of Sandy Ray, and she's kind of like trying to find out answers. And now, granted, some of this is probably pieced together as far as like, hey, make that call again. Like it makes it try to dramatize it, but like what it follows at the beginning is Stephen Davis is beaten by correctional officers and killed. And the narrative that's out there is that Stephen had weapons. They told him to drop the weapons. He didn't drop the weapons, and they had to use lethal force. It was not something they wanted to do, but they had no choice. And
Debatable on if they wanted to do it or not.
Debatable if they wanted to or not. And it follows Sandy Ray trying to get some answers, and it kind of like plots it out of where you get phone calls. So we're going to start out with the incident itself. So the mainstream report, as I said, what they claimed, but then there was like additional allegations. It goes through an unknown caller calls Sandy and it's like, hey, I know who killed your son. Like he was murdered. It was the correctional officers. Like, you know, they dramatize it obviously, but I'm sure that did happen. Someone got into contact with him and was like, yeah, your son was murdered. And the claim that they make is that he was murdered because this is a systemic problem within the Alabama prison system.
I mean, or just at large, but Alabama maybe being so the key things that I think it was presenting for me to frame it. One is that a majority, over half of this documentary is shot inside the prison on contraband cell phones. That's probably going to be like the big novelty of what makes this one unique in some way. So a lot of the footage you get is prisoners that have smuggled cell phones into the prison. And the reason why they're able to even do this is because the Alabama prison system is double, like over twice its capacity right now. So for every room that's only supposed to have 100 people in it, it's got 200 people in it. And at the same time, they're operating with a third of the staff that they're designed to do. So right now, it's kind of, I mean, it's de facto that the prisoners are running the prison, except that there are these wrecking squads that can come in, and the wrecking squads come in when the prisoners can't handle something themselves or something else pops off, and then horrible tragedies occur because you got basically slim pickings. They're making points about how they have to hire anyone that applies to this job because they're understaffed 100% of the time. So if you're looking for a job and you want to be a CO in Alabama, I think that you got a job already. Like you could just, it's like that nice right now.
This is not necessarily a claim, but I thought an interesting like factoid of what they were talking about. They're talking to Robert Earl and Melvin Ray, who are inmate activists. And this was really interesting to me because I was in county jail, and this kind of scenario kind of rose, not to this extent, but they really started learning the law from this. They call it Halifax County, which was an initiative started by inmates where they actually teach them the Bill of Rights, the constitutional law, looking for evidence, Alabama law, like what you're going to find in parole hearings. And I found it really interesting that they're like, yeah, you didn't know who you were locked up with. I've been here 30 years. Some of these guys were locked up during the civil rights movement activism. So you're like, oh, so there's some very intelligent people that were able to spread this message. And I was like, it is interesting to me, fact, that how they started this and how humans work, right? Like you've taken everything away from them, but they can pass down knowledge. And I thought it was pretty cool, like how they really educated some of them, and they ended up starting this Free Alabama movement where they're using the cell phones and social media to change and sway the public perception. And I was like, that's just so genius. Not that it's something that's out of the ordinary, but to see the genius of like you're trapped. You have nothing. It's not like you're at home. Hey, let me pop on YouTube. You're like, we got to sneak in these phones and we got to like push this narrative of like, look what they're doing to us, and actually showing people like, hey, look at the flooded floors. Look at cops beating people up. Hey, look at my face. I just got beat up.
And then I think that when the public starts to take notice, you get to see the clips that the mainstream media is like, here's their version of it. And then you start seeing the official version of the story coming out through the official channels. And all the while it's being juxtaposed against this insider look of the people in the jail. Well, I got to say that there is no footage at all of the events taking place that they're all claiming. So it's pretty much a prisoner on the phone, and you either got to take their word for it, or you see a politician on the phone, or take their word for it, or the mainstream media, right? So the most important parts that they actually talk about in this kind of revolve around a single image that Stephen Davis's brother took after he was in the ICU. But the fact that they were able to like get that picture, he had to smuggle a phone into the ICU to get a photo of it. So it kind of shows that anything that needs to be solved within this prison system, you got to kind of smuggle the solution in. It's not going to happen naturally through the institution itself.
They even kind of joke about that, like later on in the film, where like Melvin Ray's like, yeah, I know it's like we're breaking the rules, but this is how we can show you what's going on. We have to break the rules in order to like expose what's going on. And a huge claim throughout the film is excessive force, right? That's what they're focusing on, is the excessive force. They touch on the conditions and stuff like that, but particularly in this film, they're like the excessive force. And they even call like that, they say they got the guards have a team, as you said, an extract team, and they're like called the wrecking crew, right? Like that just tells you that they come in here and they're like, hey, we're shutting shit down. And they even like go as far as to interview former correctional officers that kind of break down what it was like in the prisons they were working at. And one of them was talking about how beat their ass, beat their ass, beat their ass. He said an inmate gets out of line, beat their ass. You got the green light to like whoop on them. So, and then the other officer that is a former officer is kind of painting the other picture of like, it's bad. It's short staffed. there's zombie correctional officers, there's people sleeping, and then they have footage from the inmates filming like sleeping officers or empty pods where there is no officers. So that kind of connects some of the story, even though, like you said, some of the major incidences they don't have on footage. And I mean, you got to remember you're in prison, so you can't just be like, oh, let me grab my phone. Your phone's hidden somewhere. Like you can't
Well,
let
especially as you're watching COs like literally beat somebody to death, when you just like stand out there and like, oh, hold on, let me get this in both perspectives.
So going through the course, they have Sandy Ray hires a lawyer, Hank. Hank starts to call these inmates, and it's supposed to be an attorney call. So they're supposed to have, attorney-client confidentiality or some sort of like that, I believe. And as he's going through the calls, you get the first call, and the guy's like kind of like hostile, like, "What, man? Like, I got to get out of here, and like, can we end this call?" And he's like, "Is there an officer with you?" He's like, "Yeah, the officer right here, man." And he's like, "It's not supposed to be." So it kind of pushes you into the direction of like, okay, I see where this is going. It's ultimate control. And as he's talking to some of these other inmates, nobody really wants to cooperate. And then they have an unknown guy that starts talking about the story of like, hey, look, they came in, some guy was calling Stephen gay. And if you don't understand, like in jail, like this is nothing but men. Calling someone gay in prison is not something you just take lightly, right? You're like, I'm gonna have to defend myself because they may attack me and either just try to kill me or rape or worse, right? It can get pretty graphic. So he had weapons on him. He said he had the right to defend himself. The COs came in. They said, drop the weapons, get on the ground. He claims that he slid the weapons like 15 feet and he complied with officers. And then they just decided to start whooping him with batons. And a particular officer that they claim, he goes, well, can you say who it was? He said, Officer Gatson. And then they started introducing Gatson, who has this laundry list of lawsuits that have all been settled, not all been settled, either dismissed or settled. And you start focusing on the characters individually. Then you get to this other guy that was Stephen Davis's cellmate. His name is James Sales Williams, but they keep calling him Sales throughout the film. He kind of like dances around and he's like, look, man, I'm going to get out in February. At that time, I'll go to Sandy Ray, Davis's mother, and I will tell her the truth to her face. Right now, I can't put my life on the line. He's like, if she thinks I'm going to just tell the truth, she's sadly mistaken right now. I have a couple months away from going home, and I'm out of there. You know what I mean? And so you kind of get lost on the cliffhanger right there, and they just continuously kind of tell you some of the excessive force that's happened to people. And during that time, then they click over to like Robert Earl and Melvin Ray, who are both the activists inside the prison walls, and they pushing this narrative. They tell you like, as we were breaking everything up, we were put in solitary confinement. We were claimed as enemies and claimed that we were security threats because we are getting this information out.
Bro, there's so many parts in this too that line up with just this is how it works. If you watch enough cops, right, or like live PD, you'll pick up that there's keywords. There's like a legal cheat code that once you say a legal cheat code, now you're allowed to do like all these other things. For example, on Cops and Live PD, they'll be like, were you afraid for your life? And you have to be like, yes, I was afraid for my life. Like you have to say the exact phrase. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're the victim then and you're not the aggressor. But if you don't know to say that thing, and that's kind of what was interesting about the relationship between Robert Earl and Melvin Ray, is because they were part of that Halifax group. So that Halifax group, it was they literally call it a secret society inside the prison. So they're operating the secret society in the prison, and their secret knowledge is how the law works. And that whenever the COs or the institution realize, hey, these guys are studying the law and they're not just gonna, complain or get into a fight. They're filing out lawsuits. Like they're actually bringing this through the legal system. And now we got to spend money and pay them off. And it kind of becomes a problem. So like you mentioned, they get split, but the way they get split is another legal cheat code. So if you say on paper within the prison institution system that person X is an enemy of person Y, and that it's dangerous for them to be together because they'll try and hurt each other, and someone else could get hurt, or a CO could get hurt trying to break it up. So the safest thing is just move them away from each other. So they're sitting there like, we're not enemies. Like, we've literally been friends this entire time. And we both have like sworn to never cause violence on another brother. I'll be specific, but they'll never be violent towards each other. And then essentially it turns into, nah, you guys are enemies, and that's why we got to move you apart. And it's all just like these little legal cheat codes, but it shows that as they learn more about that and they try and teach other people about that, now they're being punished as well, and they're getting beat up and dragged out of their cells. And this isn't just like hearsay. Like, you're actually seeing, I mean, who knows if they got into like a regular fight, but everyone's like, yeah, man, the CEOs just came in. This guy's trying to tell me how to file a lawsuit. Next thing you know, he's getting pulled out. And then you actually see him on camera with his head all swollen, like, oh, here's where they stomped on my head there, and there it is there. And like blood trickling down. So I mean, it doesn't seem like it's put on to me. It could be, but it absolutely seems legit what all these guys are going through and what they're describing.
I have a bias from my experience and the people that I know experience that. Like, a lot of that to me is true because I've seen it like firsthand, just in county jail, and then talking to people that have been in prison. So I'm like, it's my bias because of my experience, but like, I'm like, oh man, I'm buying the story. I'm like, yeah, it seems most likely that this guy's like, oh, you're in prison, I could just whoop your ass, right? And the fact that they've spent $53 million on settlements and defending correctional officers, I'm like, they can't all be just lying, right? Like, all the people aren't just like, oh no, these guys are outstanding citizens. You know what I mean? Like, these officers they've only jumped on them because their life was almost in danger. That money being so high, I'm like, tells me that some of this leads to be true. And the thing I forgot to mention, that one of the things that got Robert Earl and Marvin Ray to this situation is that they got the attention of the DOJ, and the DOJ filed a lawsuit on Alabama prison system, and they were pushing them to like, hey, you need to make reform. And this is where we kind of get into some surface level conspiratorial basic, like, oh, money laundering, like, you know what I mean? Like, are we like just giving money to your friends so they can, build stuff? So the solution, and this is why the film is called The Alabama Solution, the governor of Alabama, Kaylee Ivey, like, dude, typical. Like, I'm like, if you wanted to paint like a movie of like a racist governor that was like, like, it's just
Tired.
like right in the 90s, you know what I mean? You're like just like, well, no, we need it's an Alabama problem. We need an Alabama solution. And the solution she comes up with is like, hey, let's merge these 11 prisons into 3 mega prisons. And it's going to cost, in the beginning, they say it's going to cost $900 million. And now towards the film's end, it starts getting up to 1 point some billion. But it's not going to solve the problems. That's the best part. It's not going to solve any of the issues. It's going to, well, I won't say any of them because it will be a brand new facility. So that may solve some of it. But they interview one of the guys and they're like, hey, so it looks like it's going to have the same amount of beds. So is it going to still be overcrowded? He's like, yeah, it's going to be the same amount of beds. He stutters a little bit. So it kind of dives in and they push down the narrative, obviously, the inmates. And I would agree so, because I'm a conspiracy person. It's like, oh, they're just trying to make money. They're like, oh, we'll just get our contractors to build a new prison and we'll get this and we'll get some government funding maybe. And boom, we got 3 mega prisons.
Shocking, right? It's like unbelievable that this would happen.
Gambling. And Rob, the crazy part starts to me after this, right? Robert Earl is allegedly beat to like unconsciousness and dragged out of a. Now you don't see him dragged out, but you do see footage of blood streak just like going down the hall. So they dragged somebody. Like,
well, yeah, no, I mean, if you take the word of all the inmates, and I do on this particular one, they turned his face into like a crayon or something. Like, you can see blood splatter on the wall, and then like a face shaped streak that goes from inside his cell all the way out the door. And according to them, they were saying that Everyone thought he was dead. The COs thought he was dead. So that's why they're just dragging him by his feet. And then they just kind of put him inside a room. And as he's in this room, they get out all the bleach and the chemicals and start cleaning up the blood to make sure no one realizes this was a horrific crime scene. And the amount of chemicals that they were using to clean his blood wakes him up. And then they're like, oh, damn, this guy's alive still. So honestly, I don't even know why didn't they just finish the job there and then? It seems like they had already kind of concluded that it was a crime scene. So I don't know.
Yeah, I thought they would have ended it too, because it's like, dude, it's not gonna get any better. But I think some of these guards, they are comfortable when it's like, oh, he attacked me, but now too much is going on. I just they're not good at this. If you're gonna do it, be good, bro. Like you guys, you guys are terrible.
Well,
Well,
hire anybody. If even if you're horrible at covering up a crime, you can still get hired in the Alabama prison system.
and they even show Robert Earl afterwards, and like you're like, oh yeah, like you don't see his face, but he has like these makeshift sunglasses, and he's like, I'm kind of going blind in one eye,
Mhm.
and people might be asking like, how is he getting cell phones and when he's in solitary confinement? You're like, it's easier than you think. And some of these guards, not all of them are against you as far as trying to beat you. There is some good guards and there's some good people, but also the guards are the ones bringing in the cell phones and the drugs. So that's how you get a cell phone.
Well, it's the easiest way, and they make a good point that if you're a guard and you can make even more money, and there's like a dilemma because even if they catch you, they ask this question: does it hurt the prison more for you to be selling drugs and you to be passing out phones, or for you to not even be there at work because now they're understaffed even more than they should be, and they're only at a third, so that it creates this environment where the prison system is willing to look the other way and allow you to just sell drugs and bring guns in and bring in phones, rather, maybe not guns, but that like they'll look the other way because they need you. They need a body in a seat, right? They need that statistic there. So even if that statistic is adding more crime into the prison system, that is an okay trade-off just for outward appearances. Because no one, I think the ultimate point of this entire movie is that no one really cares what's happening to people inside prisons. And in Alabama, because of the overpopulation and the being understaffed, those two things combined, that it's like really easy to see. It's so visual, and the only way to get the message out is for them to like smuggle this footage out.
And then they start networking, right? They get a couple good ideas with this DOJ stuff, with like people looking into what's going on in the Alabama prisons. They're like, hey, this is our time, right? Let's send them a message. And this is cool because for me, because this is almost like, again, mine didn't get achieved. So they did a hunger strike and they were going to stop working. So when I was in county jail, only for like 6 months, right? And the thing is too, is that you'll see in this film is that, and this is why it resonates with me, is because people don't realize how prisons and jails and like military and stuff like that work until you're in it. So when you're in it, you have more compassion, like, oh, I know how this goes. So they had a raid one time in the where I was at. So people, you're not in California jails, you're not allowed to work out. It's just not frowned upon. It's against the rules because inmates were getting too big and the guards were getting beat up.
They're getting swole, so they're like, you're not allowed to get swole.
Yeah, you can't get swole. So in California, there's a lot of Hispanics. So what they would say is llaves, which means keys. So when you hear a guard, people are working out, you go, llaves, llaves. So like people know, hey, I'm gonna stop working out. Well, one of the guards got really mad and he was like, if I hear that llaves again, I'm gonna tear this whole place up. Well, one of the guys was sleeping, right? Of course, just like a movie. The guy was sleeping and then he's like, and then he wakes up later. The guy comes back in. He's like, llaves, llaves. And he's like, that's it. And he comes in with like 20 other guards and they literally ripped the whole dorm apart, ripped our pictures, broke our, like excessively, right? They had us all in our boxers out on our knees.
Did they beat anyone to death though? That's the question.
Oh, thank God they didn't. No, it was in Alabama. And plus it's county jail. So I think there's a little bit.
Yeah.
You're going to go home sooner. You know what I mean? You're going to go home sooner. But after all this chaos happened, I was like, like me being a conspiratorial guy my whole life. And I'm like, they can't do this to us. We're Americans. You know what I mean? I literally had, and we're separated by race in California jail and prison system. I had all 64 black, white, Hispanic, a couple Samoans and Filipinos, all just listening to me. And I'm like, we run this place, bro. We're like the petty criminals, man. We are the ones cooking the food, doing the laundry. I was like, let's not go to work. Let's not go to work. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, come on, guys. So I was like, hey, when they come in the morning, just stay in your bunk. Like, what are they going to do? They're going to take our good time away. Dude, we're going to go home in a month. Who cares? But what happened was that other people that run the jails, like the other inmates that are like going to go to prison that we feed, we're like, no, you're not doing that.
Right. Well, that's kind of what happens in the end of this, towards the end of the series too. So like the one prison that we've got Robert Earl and Melvin Ray in, they start this, or at least they're starting to coordinate this whole like strike, but it's every single prison in the entire state of Alabama at one point. I can't remember. There was like 11 of them or something. But they're all involved. They all do the exact same hunger strike, and they've got videos of all different races standing around holding hands, or like at least next to each other, not getting into fights. And they're like, yeah, bro, like everyone's being peaceful, no one's working, we're just going to start broadcasting this. And then you just start seeing them fold one after the other. It's like now there's 9 out of 11, now it's 7 out of 11, now there's 2 left. And then you realize that, all right, we're getting into the end of this. And it crescendos at the end with, this is where Sandy Ray, Stephen Davis's mom, the guy that originally got beat up, this like little skinny white kid, essentially got stomped to death inside in front of all the different prisoners. She also gets the conclusion of her lawsuit in progress, or complaint, or whatever it is that she was attempting to do. And to no one's surprise, I think it was like, nope, everything is fine, we're not looking into that, no one's being charged. Her mind is rocked. The prison hunger strike, work strike, all dies down. None of that really changes. Like you mentioned, the Alabama solution is literally for this old racist governor lady with like barbecue sauce on her hands is like, we'll just shut down these 11 prisons and just open up 3 super Walmart prisons and just move everyone there. And it's the exact same problem though. It's still going to be twice as overpopulated. It's still going to be a third of the hiring, and that like none of the solution actually makes sense for the problem itself. And then I want to just let me give away like the big part of the ending. I think is that the cellmate of Stephen Davis, the guy that got stomped down, that was getting out in a month and was like, look, I'm not going to talk about this until I'm out of here. He ends up dead. No signs of like being beat up or anything. And the rumor inside the jail that you get from all the contraband video is that he was given a hot shot, which is basically a cigarette that someone slipped some kind of poison into, so that when you smoke it, you just die. And that apparently that's exactly how he died. But of course, since the Alabama prison system doesn't allow any sort of media coverage or public access, then they can just not give out any sort of details for that event. And the details is just like cause unknown, natural causes. So the movie itself ends on, and here's another person that might have had insight, that was talking about he's going to be this whistleblower, he's going to come out and tell everyone the truth, and now he ends up dead less than a month before he's getting out. And it just fits this pattern that it's almost like comical James Bond villain style, like leaving clues all over the place just so you can find them. But it's just incompetence mixed with indifference, I guess.
Hidden treasures and overboard moments. I personally didn't have. Again, when I get sucked into some of these films, it's hard for me to find overboard. Like the overboard moments are just the other characters, like the racist governor and the attorney general. But like they're not overboard. I just don't like them. Like, so I don't know if I could categorize as that. But I do want to highlight one thing, like more than one thing. But this is something I was gonna do in plotting the course, but I wasn't sure. I thought this was like kind of like hidden moment because it gives you an insight on how people really think. And like, I know that people want to say like, and I'm not saying it's because of racism. I actually think racism's not the key, because they even talk about how like there was brown, white, and black, poor people locked in together. But the perception, the public perception of things is what shakes my core. because they had this little council meeting, Justice Champs Loins, and this is his quote. I literally kept playing it back so I could get him a quote of it. He said, "Of course, the way to assure absolute and total protection of the public upon conviction of crime would be execution of all who are convicted. However, conscious and the limits of the U.S. Constitution do not tolerate such extreme consequences for wrongdoing. So we live in the reality that most of these most of those convicted of crime will be roaming the streets again." I thought that quote right there is like, oh, this is their mentality. They think if you you commit a crime, I'm like, you don't know why they're in prison, right? Like Stephen Davis, they kind of go in. The mom, this is another one I want to highlight. She goes into like a barber shop, maybe like a little diner or something. You can't really tell, right? Just sees, and she's talking to this old man, and she's like, "Yeah, they killed my boy," and he's like, "He's in prison." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, he's in prison." Well, you're in prison, man. And he's like, "No, like, was he on the alcohol?" Like, and she was like, "No, he drank and stuff." So automatically, it shows you that public perception. And I don't think this is just in Alabama. I think in general, people believe everybody in prison is like the worst of the earth, right? The rapist, murderer. You can be in prison for selling bootleg DVDs. You can be in prison for outstanding tickets, or maybe not prison, but for sure jail for outstanding tickets or not paying your child support. It's not this like place that's filled with murderers, and it's mostly drug addicts. And they also highlight that. And that's another thing I thought was big in this film, is that they were able to get footage of all these strung out people. And I've seen it. Like, and I understand it, even just in the jail aspect. They put people in these situations where they're mentally unstable, where they're on drugs, shitting, pissing themselves. Like, real quick, I want to tell you a funny story that when I was in jail, so we had a 64-man unit where it's two people to a cell, right? And it's a cell block, but there's a dorm room. They lock us all in because they're going to bring a new prisoner. This guy comes walking in, probably like 48, 49, walking up quiet. As soon as they close the door, he just starts going off. He's like, "I want my horse. Where's my horse? I want my horse. Where's my horse?" And he's going on for 20, 30 minutes where the COs are like, if this guy doesn't shut up, like, none of you guys are getting day room. Which, again, this highlights part of the problem where you're like, dude, this guy is obviously not right in the head. Like, you need to take him out of this unit because you're going to get him beat up. Like, you have to, like, people will try to help them, but like they'll try to beat him up. So because people were like, "What do you mean I can't go to the day room?" They'll be all pissed. So we use the ventilation system as like a communication for like we can communicate to people. And as he's going, "I want my horse. Where's my horse?" You just hear someone go, "Fuck you and the horse you rode in on." I'm sorry. I never laughed so hard.
Well, because it broke the tension a little bit, but he never got his horse, so I'm sure
No.
it didn't solve the problem.
No, and then me being like in my mid-20s and this guy being 49 years old, since he was a white guy, he had to be in my group, and I had to be like, I had to watch him. I had to go, "Get over here." Like, and I had to make him sit like, because I didn't want to get beat up, man. Like, you feel bad. You're like, dude, he's mentally unstable, and people are on edge, and there's a lot of young, stupid people that are like, I don't care. That like they don't have the compassion or empathy to be like, oh, this guy has mental problems.
So I got quite a few overboard moments on this one. Let me start out with the hidden treasure, which I wasn't expecting because I went into this blind since it's so brand new, and that's the whole thing being shot on this contraband. I think what a genius novel approach to this, because it's wild to even see it when prison videos make their way on TikTok. I'm subscribed to a couple of channels where it's like prison cooking, and they show you how they're like making the best food that they possibly can. It's just kind of funny though that they've got an entire channel, and that this is the reality that we're in right now, is that prisoners have cell phones and social media accounts. And part of that is a little scary because, like, what if you're in prison for scamming people, like scamming grandma out of her retirement savings? Like, you can keep doing that exact same thing with a cell phone in prison. So it's a new reality that didn't exist, a couple decades ago. So that was pretty much the hidden treasure, was like this novel approach. For me, the overboard moments was just like every 5 minutes, I was rolling my eyes a little bit because I'm not going to tell any stories, but I got experience too. And there are believe it or not, there are some guilty people in the system that weren't completely innocent. There's a lot of really good manipulators, people that would just lie and lie and lie. For example, one of the main characters, and forgive me, I can't remember if it was Robert Earl or Melvin Gray, but one of the two main characters, at one point they're like, well, what are you in for? Because one of them was in for like 30 years, and he's like, it starts with like this like meandering story. Yeah, well, you see what happened was, but the story that I understood was that he sold crack. He sold crack to a crackhead. The crackhead got into a car and was driving at him, hit like two other people, so he says, and then was driving towards him. And the only way that he could protect himself was to take out a gun and shoot the crackhead that was driving at him in the car. And I'm the first thing, and he was like, it was self-defense. I feared for my life. I heard that little cheat code. I was like, yeah, this is that Halifax County coming through right now, bro. Like, I feared for my life. I shot him, and unfortunately, tragically, he lost his life. But it was the only way that I could protect myself, and it was self-defense. And I mean, obviously, we weren't there. We don't get a visual reconstruction of what happened. But also, I don't know, man. It sounds like this guy just straight up shot somebody in the head that was in a car and went to jail for 30 years for it. Apparently, that was what the system implied on it. And that later on, like I hear some of these same kind of claims, but like, for example, here's one of my favorite ones is when they have the 11 prison lockdown and they're all on the same hunger strike and the same work strike. And then there's like a 4-second clip of them panning the inside of one of these rooms, and it's got the white guys and Mexican guys and the black guy, like they're all in one room, not in a fight, kind of like solemnly standing there. And my thought too was like, damn, they only got 4 seconds of that. Would like a fight like erupt right after they were showing the unity or whatever? And part of this is that a huge overboard moment is so much of the framing, since it's coming from inside the prison system and like the actual prisoners, is they're constantly framing everything like it's the system that's doing this. And as you're watching it, I had to keep asking myself, like, when you say that this dude got jumped or someone almost got beat to an inch of their life, are we talking the COs did that, or are we talking the prisoners did that? Because there is a huge difference between those two and the framing of this movie. Because there's a way that you could go into this movie and assume that every single bad thing that happens the entire time is all coming from the state, that it's like the wrecking crew coming in and doing all this. And like my gut instinct, and this is like the overboard part of it, like it seems like a majority of that violence and all of the other problems that they're highlighting are really happening from the prisoners themselves. And the problem is that the state doesn't have enough qualified people to handle it. So it's ultimately up to the prisoners to figure this out. And I guess long-winded story short, though, but when they show that clip of like, all right, man, 11 prisons, we're all in unity now. No one's fighting. All the races are getting together now. Like, no, like we're behaving ourselves, and we're just gonna keep like showing us being normal on social media and let the state come in and enact violence. Like, why can't all 11 prisons continue to do that and continue to work, just like be peaceful and make it so that the only violence that happens is either like actual self-defense, or it can be like almost like hyperbolic next to these peaceful prisoners versus these rough COs that are coming in and beating people up. Like it would make such a better message. And I think deep down, ultimately, it's like, blame every act of violence on the prison system, even if it was like a fight between two guys. For example, the whole reason that Stephen Davis, from what we know from this documentary, the reason he died is because he was on edge and was keeping shanks on him. And apparently everyone has to keep a shank on them, because if you get into a fight, they have video footage of like an officer just like slow walking, like a fat guy, just like if you got a problem, you're not going to see help for maybe a day or two. Like they'll find your dead body and be like, oh, there's a dead body here. They wouldn't even know about it. So like part of that aspect is that the prisoners do have to self-regulate, and Stephen Davis getting accused of being gay basically means that he's gonna be murdered now, and that he had to keep weapons on him all the time. And the second that the wrecking crew had to come in, it's probably like, the fact that you made me walk all the way up these stairs and come into this room with all these dangerous people and do this thing I don't want to do, Like, I got a green light to do whatever the F I want right now, and I've got immunity to do it. I can beat this person. In fact, there's a quote. What is it? I'm the Reaper of Death. Now say my name. That this is a quote that one of the prisoners said that they heard this guy, or it's actually in like a legal transcript of something I think that might have been recorded. So clearly they're going in here with this like huge bone to pick. And one of the prisoners that we get interviewed with, he makes a good point. Like they are now addicted to brutal violence. It's like something that they get a rush out of, and they know that they've got free reign to do this, and the outside world doesn't care about it. So final overboard moment, cover your children's ears, but no shit. I mean, like every single thing that happens in this, and maybe I'm just jaded, but every claim that the mom makes, every claim that the lawyers make, all the things the prisoners are saying, like, man, they're just gonna let us die in here. Like, yeah, no shit, bro. Have you not paid attention to like what state institutions do? If we're talking the 1920s, if we're talking the 1860s, like you can go as far back in history as you want, and these state institutions have never cared about your general like upkeep or like you even being alive, frankly, and not just in constant pain. And if an institution has to investigate itself, like if the federal government comes in and has to investigate the state, that's still the government investigating the government. And these people don't like not have dinner together. They more likely have dinner with each other and go to each other's dinner parties than to anyone in the prison or anyone that works in the prison system as a CO or anything. So that was the biggest overboard moment, man. Like every single time I imagine there's people watching this, like, I can't believe this has happened. How have I never heard about this before? Like, you should be embarrassed if you get surprised by anything that happens, by the fact that they murk the guy that's getting out in a month and that might spill the beans. If you're surprised by that, that's your fault. If you're surprised that Stephen Davis could get stomped in the, in public in front of all these people, and the COs don't even care, and the COs like, yeah, I got 20 lawsuits on me. I don't care. None of them have ever gone through. Like, if any of that shocks you, that's all your fault, and you haven't been paying attention for however long you've been alive.
To the world. Like, it's like, dude, they treat me like that at my work, like not at that level, but I'm saying they don't care. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right. Well, bro, even here's a quick personal story. Even in the military, so if you think it's bad in the Alabama prison system, imagine being at like Guantanamo Bay as a taxi driver that got swept up in, some investigation, and now you're in a black site. And I personally know the guy that was lived directly next to me. He would get sent over to Guantanamo. He was an MP, military police. He would go over there and basically as a CO and come back. And after like 2 or 3 trips over there, he comes back and he's like, bro, you should sign up for this. You get extra hazard pay. Like it's the safest job you'll ever have. Like everything is done for you. You could just break people's fingers, man. And he was like describing how they would like force the prisoners to stick their hands through the bars, and they would just kick them or punch them or just like smack them and just break the fingers around. And like as I'm watching this Alabama solution, like, yeah, they just got addicted to violence, man. I was like, damn, bro, like this brought back this visceral memory for me. And again, it's like, this isn't just the prison system. This is like humans. This is like at some point when you do the Stanford prison experiment and you give one person authority over another person, that it seems to just instinctually happen. Maybe men in particular, because I'm watching this with my girlfriend. She's like, how come they're not showing the women's prison system? Are they involved in this? And it's like, they're probably not beating each other to death, and they don't need wrecking crews to come in and solve. I'm sure there's fights in the women's prison system, but
you made a fair point though. Like, and I like that because it's both sides. Like Robert Earl is using the same excuse that Officer Gadsden's using. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I fear for my life. You know what I mean?
They both know the cheat code.
Yeah, they know the cheat code. And yes, it is not emphasized enough in this film that prison is violent on its own. You know what I mean? Like, it's a violent place. Like, this is not even in county jail, it's violent, but it's not to the violent extreme of prison, because you're going to be there in years. And yes, officers are bringing in cell phones and contraband and drugs, but who are they bringing them to? The kingpin dude that's still making all the money, that's calling the shots in the prison, that wants it to keep going, right? So there was probably people inside, not just correctional officers, but there was probably people inside the prisons like, end this strike now. Like literally people were, when I thought of that thing, people were sending kites, which if you don't know, a kite is like a little note that someone like carries, like hides it because and passes it around. And you'll be surprised how fast a message, even without a cell phone, can get around. And people are like, yeah, the big homie said, you better go cook the food. If you don't, someone's gonna catch up. So you don't just have to worry about the correctional officers, which in this film, they only want you to look at the correctional officers and the way the system is dealt, which I agree with you. It is horrible. But yes, let's not pretend that these guys are just like, dude, they're just trying to make their way in life, man. You know what I mean? They just want to see their kids and stuff. There's a lot of violent piece of shit people in the.
And I guess the mask does slip just a little bit, a tiny little bit. The mask slips at the end because both Robert Earl and Melvin Ray, and I want to say like one other inmate that they're talking to, and this is as the hunger strike and the work strike is starting to taper out, and it's like 2 left. And both of them in their own ways, I'll paraphrase both of them, but they're kind of like, yeah, man, we really thought this would work. I put my all into this. Like, I hope I don't have to revert back to what I know. I hope I don't have to revert back to being violent again. Maybe bloodshed is the only way that revolution can really happen. And like how quickly it's like, man, if I didn't get my way after approaching this one thing that I really thought was going to work, that like maybe violence is the answer. And just the fact that mask slips and it reverts right back down to like, let's get violent again. It's almost like, damn, like maybe like I was right about to let you out of the jail cell after 30 years, bro. And now you're talking about, oh, if I don't get my way, I have to get violent. Like, damn, now maybe it's going to have to be 50. Then that's sort of what happens, right? And they realize that they're self-aware of this dynamic, that it's like the only thing they know. But it's tough, man. Like I could see people watching this movie from so many different angles.
It's that time. Sink or swim.
This might be a little bit of a shocker, man. I'm gonna say sink, dude. Not because it's a bad documentary at all. It's great, and I highly recommend it. And I was entertained by watching it. But I guess part of my criteria, man, I want to learn something brand new. And some dude that got stomped to death by COs in a prison system, and no one heard about it, and here's proof, and no one still cares. It's just like, okay, what is it? A Tuesday? Like it doesn't seem like I learned anything interesting or new from this. Like no respect to the people that got harmed or died in the process. Like obviously I respect all their lives, and that I'm glad that their story is making its way out, but it's like a drop in a bucket for what's actually happened in the system. And again, if any of this was new information to you, then you just now started paying attention. Good for you. Keep it up. But otherwise, it was just the novelty of it being recorded on contraband, which I think makes it so incredibly interesting and important and worth the watch. But ultimately, I'm rating it a sink. I mean, I can like it and recommend it and still call it a sink.
I'm gonna go with the swim. My bias was leaning heavy. I'm like, yeah, man, I remember that card. That was Officer Ibarra. I remember you, bro. Like he was. You think you know what I'm saying? So my bias definitely creeped in. I watched it twice, and I was still like, man, I was angry. Like, oh yeah, they probably did do that. But you are right, yeah, that they could have explored it better. They could have like really set it to a tone of like, hey, this is human nature, and kind of that would have been more profound than like, hey, did you know that there's corruption in the prison system? What? Like, no way that they're corrupt there. Like, you're telling me a private institution that is funded by the federal government, like, does things and cuts corners to save money, and they make the prisoners work to run the jails? Like, is this news to you? Like, I see your point on that level. I'm gonna give it a swim just because I liked how it was shot. I love the footage of seeing like rats in bottles, them catching rats and rats, swimming in their toilet, and seeing some of the footage of how prisoners are living. And because people think that all the American jails are just like nice and dandy, and like, oh, you got to see the Mexican jails or you got to see the Guatemala. You're like, we have some pretty horrific jails ourselves, but that's just status quo. That's why I kept saying surface level mainstream conspiracy. Like, what? The government's corrupt? You're like, if you're barely figuring that out, you're a little behind.
Yeah, maybe I'm jaded on that. And that reminds me too of one genius part of how the documentary starts is it starts out and this film crew have been invited to an annual like barbecue. Apparently the Alabama prison system has like a outdoor church revival / barbecue that I assume if you're one of the good inmates that's not in solitary, you're allowed to go to this thing. And they're getting all this footage and they're singing and there's food. And originally the prisoners are like, man, there ain't nothing like this. This is the only prison system in the whole country that you get to come outside and just hang out and like reclaim some of your freedom, blah, blah, blah. And then they try and get an interview with someone like off to the side without an officer being there. And he's like, yeah, man, there's a reason why they invited you to this today. Like, they don't want you to see the inside of the prisons. Inside of these prisons are not what you expect them to be. And then you hear like the CEO come over like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you guys can't be recording this. You could have got hurt. Like, I'm afraid for your safety. Again, there was like a legal cheat code word that they threw in there. So I like how the movie started out on, here's what the state like had planned for us when we said we wanted footage. And now here's how we actually went about it.
Yeah, that was great though. The band going on. And that had one of my favorite moments where it was like a slow looking dude. And they were like, hey, how is it over here? He's like, it's a good day. Well, you know what it is. Go to paranoidamerican.com, killthemockingbird.com. Check out all our content. Like, subscribe, share. Like, subscribe, share. Like, subscribe, share. Maybe that will like get people in the.
We'll go on a hunger strike if you don't. They're like, you guys should.
This is another episode of Under the Docks, Mainstream Mondays. Peace.
I think we got some quotes in that one that we don't have to record them separate.
Yeah, I already wanted to. I'm probably
people were breaking the locks. Footage got clipped, they erased all the shots. They connected dots. Under the docks. Under the docks. Yeah, under the docks. Under the docks.
Ready for a cosmic conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and the CIA? Go visit nasacomic.com.
NASAcomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm NASAcomic.com, go visit NASAcomic.com. Go visit NASAcomic.com. Yeah, go visit NASAcomic.com. Oh, NASAcomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm NASAcomic.com, go visit NASAcomic.com. Go visit NASAcomic.com. Yeah, go visit NASAcomic.com.
Never a Straight Answer is a 40-page comic about Stanley Kubrick directing the Apollo space missions.
Yeah, go visit NASAcomic.com.
This is the perfect read for comic, Kubrick, or conspiracy fans of all ages. For more details, visit nasacomic.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when the beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.